I think that the scene with Arthur's supposed sister too is an interesting one.
Well, there's two of them. Is it Morgan or
Oh,
Morgos?
the older one.
Morgos. Okay.
Um, the scene where she's introduced as the red-haired woman, and she goes on in this sort of rant. I think that you were stealing from yourself and from Stardust Memories there, where you have her sort of uh, going that scene with Dory where it's fractal,
Oh yeah,
um,
yeah. Yeah.
and I think that that's an interesting scene. It's also a steal from I think it turns out to be here where you have one of the sisters going on like that too, and then you have the fractured sentences
Yeah.
in the play.
Yeah, and that suggests that this is someone who's saying things that are not necessarily cohering, and
I
that she,
also think that it's different than it turns out to be here in that it could be you meant when you mentioned that Bergmanian thing, it put me in the mind of that scene where she eventually turns to Arthur and she's talking to him, but you don't know that at first. And the interesting thing is that it almost comes off rehearsed. That it's like she's rehearsing her lines before she goes and talks to Arthur. That's something that could be used throughout the cycle.
yeah, and again, I don't know. There are some threads that I'm going to leave open, just like I left open a lot of threads at the end of the Norwegian family. Most famously, probably the one with the super spy. The super spy's brother. If you remember in a Norwegian family, we get the tale of the super spy and his brother being killed by. I think it's by one of the. It might be by the mule of the Foundation, and then I do the whole Super 7 book, and we think we're going to get a resolution and find out what actually happened to the brother. But we don't, because the super spy, it turns out, doesn't really care about his brother. I mean, that's one of the great moments where we find out that that character really is an anti hero, as the subtitle of that book is, because he's really not as caring as he makes out to be, or that he would be, and he's not as heroic. And so this is one of the things that you need to do in art is to sometimes set up expectations and don't meet them. Don't You don't have to. If you set up 10 expectations in a work, don't meet all 10. Leave two or three of them at least open, so that you don't want to leave all of them open, because then that's people will look at that as a cop out. But don't answer all 10 of them, so to speak. And this one with King Arthur, because there's so many variant myths and tales and versions, it's the perfect thing to do this with, because you know um, and then you can make up your own myths. The whole Demodwine thing, you know. Uh, this is a good thing, because we know that he's not really the son of Uther Pendragon. He's not really a king. He's not really descended from kings. But we don't know. Is his tale of coming out of the caves with these two girls, is that real or not? He doesn't remember them. They claim they remember him, although from what we know, he would have been 6 or 7. Morgos maybe a couple of years older, 8 or 9. The younger sister maybe a year or two younger, 4 or 5 years old. So we don't know really if any of this is true, and we don't know if are the sisters conspiring together. And I may or may not use that in the whole Modred angle that will play out. But the good thing is, each of these plays will have little scenes that develop these characters. Modred, as I said, has a good scene in the second Gawain play, because he is ostensibly, even though he's not actually related, they assume he's a relation to Gawain and Agravain and Gaheris and Gareth, the sons of Lot. The sons of Lot dominate the second play that I'm writing, the sons of King Lot, and they have their own personal mythos and whatnot. And the thing that I just like and is really good about these plays is each of them is different. They take on different aspects of the Arthurian myth, but they take on different aspects of the human condition, and I do that so much better than other people, because other people would be stuck. They would be too tied to these myths. They don't explore. They don't push themselves. You have to push yourself. You can't ever rest on your laurels. I want to, if I die at the age of 95, I want to die writing something and maybe just finishing it and then keeling over, and that last play be
I was
okay.
telling Thomas that actually. I said, I bet when Dan is in the hospital bed and he's near death that he'll say, "I can get one final line out."
Yeah, yeah. You have to live it to the fullest. Yeah, yeah. Hold on. What, Jess? Yeah, okay. Jessica's making fun of me raising up my fist like that. She's all right. Go walk. But anyway, go on.
Did you have anything more to say about this play, and also where do you think it ranks in your plays?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a great play. It's one of these things. They're sort of. I mean, how do I compare this play, for example,
I
with?
think that it's easier to compare it to like the Genghis Khan plays.
Yeah,
I would say that this is a richer play overall than the Genghis Khan plays.
it may be in certain aspects, but how do I compare that to, say, the play that I did about the crazy sisters and the girl where Danny's a young boy and there's the fat girl and she's got the mother and I mean, that's a great play. Even if I go back to, for example, my second play, If God Were Alive. I mean, that's a great standard, straightforward play. I mean, it's a great play. When I look at that and I can say, man, that has a richness. But again, I'm doing more because I'm bringing more to it. Because this is my 61st. Was this my 60th? This is my 60th play. So I'm on my 61st play that I'm writing now. So I have more to use. But that doesn't, that doesn't make the other plays not great. It's just a lesser greatness. And if I'm writing play 80 or play 100, hopefully, the best of those plays will be better than these plays because I'll have 20 or 30 or 40 plays that I've written in between. And again, you have to push yourself. And when we were talking privately too about the will to write and the desire to write, you have to just keep doing writing. You have to engage the art as much as you can. I mentioned this actor that I interviewed yesterday, and while I don't believe in his own personal philosophy, I have to give him credit. He does, and he's totally committed to it. And whether you think he's a great painter or a great writer of these runes of tarot, or whether you think he's a good actor or not, is beside the point in the sense that he believes that, and he's fully committed. And so I have to give him props on that level, even if I don't buy his overall life philosophy. And this is one of the things that is very hard for people to do, is that even if you don't, for some reason, if you're one of these trolls online that don't like me, you can't say that I don't put forth, or I'm not engaging people, because there's no artist I know of that does more than me, and that consistently does so oftentimes with a hand tied behind my back. It's like swimming the backstroke with just one arm, because I don't have the luxury that a lot of artists throughout a lot of some of the greater artists have had. I'm not like Eugene O'Neill that I can spend 6 months in Florence, to write a play. I've got this play I wrote in 2.5 weeks with maybe a week or so of setup, so probably 3 weeks or so. Less than a month that I wrote it from beginning to end in terms of conceiving it. I was writing some of the ideas down as I was finishing up the novel, and same thing with the Gawain play here. I started that, I think on the 23rd, and today is the 29th. So it's 6 days, 7 days of actual major writing with a week or so of setup. I'll be done in 3 or 4 days at the most, and this is a little bit longer of a play, but it's got some repetitions to it, the way I did with that play that I had, Janelle's Red Yaya, where some of the scenes of Gawain is on a quest post Green Knight, and we get a little bit further each time we encounter Sir Gawain on his quest. And then there's dream sequences too that are good, because one of Gawain's brothers, Gaheris, is wanting to be a knight. He's only in his mid-teens. He's 15 or 16, and then this is what but I won't get into that. But one of the things too I do is I put these characters in realistic time frames. King Arthur here, he's shown as having come when he's 6 or 7 in around 430 AD, and the play ends about 15 years later. So he's in his early 20s. He's 21 or 22 when he's ascended to be king. Now you'd say that's a young king, but in those days that would have been the equivalent of being in his early 30s nowadays, because of the shorter time lifespans. And in the second play, King Arthur is about 24. Launcelot is 22. King Arthur maybe 23. Sir Gawain is 24, 25. And he's considered a veteran. He's considered closing in on middle age. So I have these realistic time frames for these characters, which is why Merlin is seen as, you know, a wizard or something, because he's clearly an old man, probably 60 or so when he finds Arthur. By the time Arthur has become king, he's probably 75, which is old, but not super old in our day. But it's mind-bogglingly old in that time, and he probably is going to end up living to 80, 90 or more, and so forth. So this is another good thing to bring it to make it a bit more realistic, and that's part of the Cassavetesizing of these Camelot characters, is to make them more real within their own universes, and more real in the way they interact.